Good morning. We are back from recess here. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We got the Senate with us for we don't know how long, but they'll be running back and forth if need be. So what I'll do is I'll go back to Representative Baker so we can get the wording here, and then we'll turn it over to nonpartisan staff.
Yep.
Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I left with a potential oral amendment, and I think after having a little bit of a break and talking to some folks really in the field, I think we can come together with a landing strip that maybe isn't quite so long. So, Mr. Chair, and to staff, I would like to just clarify my oral amendment to the 1099 contractor language and how that relates to no new contractors after July 1st of 2024, and then no one in the field on that range after January 1st, 2025. So basically give it 6 months ramp down. I think most folks that I have called and visited with, certainly talking to my friend and colleague, Representative Frederick, about this, I think we find that this is probably going to be reasonable. So I'd like to offer that as an oral amendment, Mr. Chair and members.
Okay, thank you, Representative Baker. And I will go to, I'm looking at, I'm guessing Ms. okay, I'm seeing everyone pointing at Ms. Pinelli. Turn it over to our nonpartisan staff to make sure that we're guiding this. And this is going to be on the Article 4 from the Senate language and Article 5 on the House language.
Correct, Mr. Chair. I believe the amendment would be to House language in Article 5, the Substance Use Disorder Services article. If you're looking at the revisor side by side, it would be on R8A4, the House language, page 53, line 27, after the C that's in parentheses, insert a recovery peer hired on or after July 1st, 2024 must not be classified or treated as an independent contractor, period, beginning January 1st, 2025, comma. And then there are additional changes on page R14A4.
Okay. Will this all be one amendment then, or do we have to do them separate? Ms. Pinelli.
Mr. Chair, it could be one amendment.
Okay, if you'd like to continue then.
Mr. Chair, on page R14A4 of the revisers side-by-side House language, page 60, line 17, delete and, page 60, line 18, after peer, insert hired on or after July 1st, 2024, comma, and delete the period and insert a semicolon and then page 60, after line 18, insert a clause 12, not classify or treat any recovery peer as an independent contractor as of January 1st, 2025, period.
Okay, and that covers the entire scope of the language then. So what we have is we have an oral amendment offered by Representative Baker as described by Ms. Pinelli before us. Any further discussion? Representative Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support that amendment.
Okay, any further discussion? Senator Utke.
Just for clarity, I heard you about the oral amendment, but does there need to be a last piece in there, the effective date of that section? Because if effective date would be effective August 1, even though it says July 1, would it not be effective? Don't you have to bring that up to date too?
I do not believe so. Mr. Monahan.
Mr. Chair, members, I'm looking at Ms. Pinelli. I think it would need a July 1 effective date for those two sections, or at least clauses 11 and 12 in the second half of the amendment.
I'm seeing Ms. Pinelli. I'm seeing your head bounce up and down. So do we need, Mr. Monahan, do we need to add something in additional to the language that Ms. Pinelli has referenced then, is what you're saying?
Mr. Chair, I think you could accomplish that with the final motion at the end, asking staff to make conforming changes, and
That's what I was hoping for.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to find the easy way here. Thank you. Okay, Senator Utke, does that address your concern? I'm seeing a thumbs up there. You're welcome. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we are going to be voting on the Representative Baker oral amendment as described by Ms. Punelli. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
So we have, oops, thank you. The motion is approved, the amendment, the oral amendment is adopted to, here we are, I'm sorry, is adopted to the House language, Article 5. Section 12 as amended and Section 19, lines 60.14 to 60.18. As amended. Okay, now I gotta go back. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going back to my script here to try to get back on track, so please be patient with me here. All right, okay, so Representative Frederick, will you move the House language, Article 5, Section 12, as amended in Section 19, lines 60.14 to 60.18, only as amended?
So moved.
It's been moved. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of adopting the House language, Article 5, Section 12, as amended in Section 19, lines 60.14 to 60.18, only as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion prevails in House language, Article 5, Section 12, as amended, and Section 19, lines 60.14 to 60.18, only as amended, are adopted. Senator Mann, will you move House language, Article 5, Section 25?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Mann. Any discussion? Representative
Don't
Baker,
worry.
go
I just,
ahead.
no oral amendments here.
Take another
So,
class
hang on.
here.
No. Again, I think for the folks listening to this too, this section is important to talk about our sober home prevailing conversations we've been having, and I just want to thank the committee. I want to thank really the Minnesota Association of Sober Homes, their oversight, their help to coming together to find a good way to allow, medically assisted therapies into homes and other things. This is a compromise that Senator Mann is bringing to us today. So I just want to thank our advocates out there for working together. It was not easy for them to come to this too. So we always appreciate working in this area. So thanks, and I just really support this.
All right. Thank you, Representative Baker. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of adopting House language, Article 5, Section 25, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion prevails, and House language, Article 5, Section 25 is adopted. We will next move on to House Article 6 and Senate Article 5, which is direct care and treatment. Senator Hoffman, would you move the Senate language, Articles 5, Sections 1 through 17?
So moved.
It's been moved. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of adopting Senate language, Article 5, Sections 1 through 17, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion prevails. Senate language, Article 5, Sections 1 through 17 are adopted. Next, we move on to House Article 7 and Senate Article 5. Senator Hoffman, will you move the Senate language,
Six. Article 6.
Article 6, Sections 1 through 6?
So moved, Senate Article 6, House Article 7, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for correcting me on that, Senator Hoffman. It's House Article 7, Senate Article 6, Sections 1 through 6 that have been moved by Senator Hoffman, and we're moving the Senate language, Article 6, Sections 1 through 6. I think I got it right.
You did.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of adopting Senate language, Article 6, Sections 1 through 6, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion prevails, and Senate language, Article 6, Sections 1 through 6 are adopted. Members, we have one more amendment that I will be bringing forward, and this is dealing with the special minimum wage transition. And the amendment I'm bringing forward has been based on a lot of discussion. First of all, I know that the House position came on saying that we would totally eliminate it, based on robust discussion that we had on the House floor and continued input from people, what I have in the, what is going to be the A12 amendment, which would be an Article, I think it would still be Article 3? Or
It'd just be as new language.
as new language, okay, added as new language. And this is to create a special minimum wage transition. And the original position that the House had was to have everything end by the 28th. And what we're doing here is several different things, is that based on information that I heard that people had a lot of concerns is, geez, if we just have an abrupt transition, do we get people that get lost in the process? What we want to do is try to create a process here that allows for a lot of off-ramps and a lot of opportunities to take our time and make sure we add in some additional support. And I want to say thank you to all the people who have provided information to me from the House, the Senate, Republican side, Democratic side, from the department and from the advocates out there, is that what we're looking at is creating a situation is that starting on August 1st of 2027, that an employer would not hire any new employees under Section 14C. And then starting on August 1st, 2026, we would start phasing in a floor, because one of the things that we talked about very clearly in the House is that there was concern, we had no floor at all, and there was a lot of concern on that. So what we did is came out with an amendment that's saying that the floor would be 50% of what the current minimum wage is at the point in time of August 1st, 2026. And then for August 2027, that would become 27%. On August 1st, 2029%, it would go up to the full minimum wage. In addition, some of the things that we are doing is realizing that there are concerns out there. Things look different in different communities. I know that in some areas, hearing from some of my colleagues in the House that are in the rural areas, is they've got concerns is that you may have one employer in the area, and if they aren't able to quite do it, or something happens to that one employer, how do we work around that? And so one of the things that we have is we've added in here some lead agencies' responsibilities, and what we've done is this is directing some groups in the state, agencies in the state, to come together to reach out to the 14C providers and say, as a state, what are the different jobs that we have that we can start making available to people in your community that are transitioning, to help you transition from 14C without a minimum, with a special minimum wage to having a 14C with a regular minimum wage. Because we know the state has jobs and outreaches in every part of the state. And this is a program that I know that was started last year. I think it was called the Capture 700 program. Connect 700, thank you. And I've been very impressed with what they're able to do in terms of reaching out. And I think by facilitating the state coming on board and helping partner with the agencies, the different nonprofits out there, I think this creates a pathway. What I'm doing is I will be asking for a vote on this as we go through, and I'll do a roll call because I know there's division. I want to make sure that we're hearing it properly. But I also trying to do is create a discussion, because I very much appreciate the discussion that my colleagues on the Republican side in the House created on the House floor that really I think is moving. When I take a look, when we started dealing with this last year to where we are now, we've had a lot of positive discussions in the House, and I know it's hard. I know this is an issue myself that I wrestled with. I was very uncomfortable when I was first hearing about this 5 years ago. And as I've gotten to talk to the employers in my area, and particularly the organizations that were on 14C and are moving off, that it is possible to work, but we want to make sure that nobody gets left behind, that anyone who wants a job is able to get it. So at this point, I want to pause and let the discussion go.
I think you have to move, you actually have to move the
Oh, I did not move. And with that, I will move the A12 amendment so that we will actually have a motion in front of us. And with that, I will open up for a discussion so that we can start setting the table. Senator Utke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And those of us from our body know exactly where I stand on this issue. And I want to, offer some ideas, thoughts, et cetera, on this, because currently I feel the system is really working well. When this conversation started 3-4 years ago, in quantity, so to speak, it was, brought up a lot. The numbers I always heard were there were 6,000 to 7,000 individuals in Minnesota that were working sub-minimum wage. Their providers had the 14C certificate. Today, I'm hearing those numbers are maybe 3,300 to 3,700. Our providers do a wonderful job across the state, and they get better all the time. I come from Hubbard County. We've got what I always brag about as I say it's the shining star of Minnesota. And I know there's other good providers, but they do a tremendous job for this group of individuals. And these individuals come to me, and I know that they know where I stand. So I appreciate being able to be their voice, and that's why they keep sending their stuff to me. But they do because they love what they do. They like the people that they get up and go to work with in the morning. They said, you know, just do not take our jobs away from us, and that's their big thing. You know, I walk into those facilities, and you just watch their faces light up. They're enjoying every bit of what they're doing, and that's the part of this. Looking at a phase out, I have yet to see anybody come forward with a plan that's anything other than this just goes away. And whether it's the department or others have had probably 4 years now, and yet there's never been a plan that's come to my office. And I've had some in the office, and I've asked them, what is your plan? Well, we can do this, we've got these day services. No, what is your plan? These people keep saying their job, no matter how small it is so important to them. And, you know, and my thoughts along those lines are, you know, if we're 3,500 today or 3,300, even if it's 500 and 400 in a couple more years, I'm still not gonna, myself, let this go away because it's important to that group of individuals. And their job is important to them and it's important to me. And the one thing that I typically, I shared this last year and I would like to do it again here. This is one of the young ladies up in Hubbard County that does work under the 14C, and she made it big this past, was that in September? That they had it on the national PBS TV. They came to Park Rapids and filmed for a day, and they turned my living room into a TV studio while I was gone, which was kind of interesting when I came home. But anyhow, my portion of it was about a sentence or two, which was fine. It's not about me, it's about the program and the people. But this is a letter that she sent last February, and I read it in committee, and I think it really lays out why this is so important to them and why it's important to me. And it says, "Dear lawmakers and policymakers, please don't let anyone take away my choices of work and living. People with disabilities should have the right to choose where they work and live and who they work with and live with. I need specialized support for living and working. I love working at the DAC and barely used thrift store in Park Rapids. I work for special wages and always have the choice to do other activities if I want to. I will always need to have special staff who understand my disabilities to help me at work and at home. They need to be paid more money," so she's looking out for her staff, which is wonderful. Then we all realize that the staff could use some additional money, but she's just fine for herself. She says, "I love my jobs at the DAC and thrift store and living in my group home because I have friends who have disabilities just like I do. Some people want to take away these choices from me and my friends. That is not fair. I should have the right to choose to work for special wages and choose my friends. Thank you for your help." You know, that's what this is all about. So that's why I come from the direction on this that I do. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Senator Rucky, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to Senator Rucky's point, when we talk about a plan, which we've been saying this for a couple of years, right? And we go back, 1999, Senate File 331, the Welfare Work Incentives Improvement Act was put in place. And then that was followed up by WIOA, which then started to really have the conversation, customized employment, right? You start to see that intertwined. And then you say Minnesota, years ago, We did pathways to employment. We spent $22 million over a period of 10 years, and the employment rate for people with disabilities in state government at the beginning of that project was 3.6%. At the end of the project, guess what that number was? 2.5%.
The Senate needs to go vote.
Thank you.
We'll recess for a moment or two until the Senate comes back. Okay, we are back we're back from recess here. Welcome back to the
Thank you.
committee. Senate, welcome back. And we will pick up where we left off. Senator Hoffman, I think we interrupted you in the middle of a sentence.
Did. Everybody interrupts me, Mr. Chair, but that's okay. I can handle that. I started to tell you the definition of where we're at, 1999. You want me to go back and tell you how Bill Clinton signed that into law? I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, things progressed up, right? In Minnesota, after 1999, at the same time, there was an Olmstead decision that was made in the Supreme Court. It took the state 17 years to enact theirs. But it wasn't because they did it on, they wanted to do it. It was because a federal judge, Donovan Frank, said, you will do it. You have to do it. Based on a Jensen settlement agreement that occurred between the state of Minnesota and some folks, class action settlement stuff. And everybody's gonna say, Hoffman, where are you going with this? It's really random. It's not random. It's about a systems conversation, Mr. Chair. Your plan here, it states, but you're missing some key components in the system, and I'm gonna tell you where those are at. And if you wanna do this right, there's only one person in this room that has successfully taken somebody from a 14C certificate and got them prevailing wage, got them minimum wage, right? Payroll, the company that I was with went from $15,000 a year. By the time I had left, it was $1.5 million a year in W-2s going to the individuals, right? And so I'm sorry I'm out of breath because I had to run up steps and I'm not young anymore. But here's a couple of things we wanted to look at. And I share with you an anecdotal person. Let's call him Joe. Let's say he's from the Iron Range. It's actually his real name, right? And here's what bothers me. Voc Rehab said, somebody in Voc Rehab said, Joe, you're gonna be a perfect candidate for customized employment under Section 511 of the WIOA. Great. Non-disabled person telling a disabled person what their future is, right? Not about informed choice. What's Joe's theme in life? What does Joe like to do? What are the things he wants, right? Those themes that Griffin and Hammes talk about, right? Where's that conversation? Not in this amendment, right? So here's what happened. Joe attended every meeting that they set up, filled out every form that they asked to fill out, because at the time, Deed, you would have to fail in order to get something going within the disability world, right? It's a failed system, and I mean failed meaning you're not ready for work. That's the actual term that was used for many years, right? And I'll quote you on that one, right? But they use that. Molly, you're not ready for work. Therefore, you're gonna go into this conversation, right? I'm just looking at you because that's what they do, right? And in this case, Joe, you're gonna be perfect for customized employment. I'm glad they used the word customized because that's really what it's about, customized employment. It's not competitive employment because people with disabilities are twice as likely to be unemployed than anybody else in the state, right? That's been consistently the same, no matter if the market's high or the market's low regarding employment, right? But one thing's missing in all this conversation is that informed choice, and it's also personal, like Senator Aki is getting to. And I've been to the places in your area. I've been to places where I see how people are treated with respect, right? And I say that in a sense because ask somebody where their social life is. We all have social lives, right? We all belong, right? And the one thing I keep hearing from parents of kids with disabilities, what's gonna happen to my son or my daughter because they don't have that social interaction that's happening, right? Because we're not funding that. These programs are funding that. And what do you get from people, right? That I'm talking about, Senator Aki mentioned there were 7,000 people, now there's 3,200 people or 3,300 people that are receiving a special minimum wage. The system is correcting itself. The market is adjusting itself, right? But we're still not setting up a system or a plan in place to how it's gonna be effectively good for people at the end of the rainbow, right? So every meeting was set up, filled out all those forms, every staff encountered, lots of questions, and here's what the mom, Jeannie, said to me. The system failed us, John. We had 4 different service providers. We endured countless staff changes, requiring every time there was a staff change, guess what they had to do with Joe? Start the process all over again. That's not okay. It's not a systems approach. This is good stuff, but you know what? There's no systems approach to this. After 3.5 years of searching for Joe, right? Joe got a job. Guess what? He got a job 1 hour a week working with his staff being there present 24/7, or, for that 1 hour. That was a one-on-one kind of job situation. I don't like being micromanaged, right? What did Joe do? Failed, right? Let's just go forward here. It's pre-vocational. You guys, the letter's in here. I'm reading from it. We got to vote? We're voting now? All right. We are voting now on an amendment. Are you guys okay?
Yep. We'll recess for 2 minutes here.
Sorry.
Quick. We are back from recess. I will turn it over to Senator Hoffman, and Senator Hoffman, go ahead and pick up where you left off.
So I talked about the 1 hour a week, right? And you see the note in here from the parent. They waited till the pandemic restrictions, and then Joe started at ERDAC. And he got a component of a person-centered plan according to what Joe wants. Not what you want, but what Joe wants and the mom wants, right? It was this feeling that here's what he gets. He works 5 days a week. He calls it work 5 days a week. Do not wordsmith me. And advocates who have employed my daughter to come after me on this is not okay publicly, right? You do not do that. You can tell me, but as soon as you start telling people in my family that I'm opposing something, why don't you come talk to me like I'm explaining here? The system needs to change. If we want to do that, the system needs to change. Because here's what Joe gets. This is the personal thing. 5 days a week, he feels meaningful. The work to him is meaningful. Yeah, we don't know what he makes. I don't care. The fact is he's interacting. All members, by the way, they're steelworkers. It's a steelworkers union shop where they're at, right? They understand his intellectual disability. They understand Joe, right? He has transportation that's provided. Unlike, I got a gentleman in Champlin, graduate of Augsburg College, right? Gets a job with a healthcare provider, one of the bigger ones. It's not in Champlin because there aren't big ones in Champlin. It's across the river in Anoka County, Coon Rapids. You guys can look it up. Who's the biggest provider over there in healthcare, right? So he gets a job there. Metro Mobility is supposed to pick him up because his mobility is in a wheelchair, so he needs specialized transportation, right? Full-time job. Can't get him to work on time. 45 minutes late almost daily. Put this guy on probation. They're going to say, you know what, we're going to lose your job. His mom had to quit her job to be the transporter of him, right? If the system really, really, really lines it up, then the systems, meaning transportation, meaning deed, meaning the Department of Human Services, needs to do it. Because here's what happened. All that said, Joe has friends in a social network, right? We spent time talking about recovery. We spent time talking about, right? What do we know? Isolation doesn't help with any of that stuff. Isolation in itself is terrible. Other states that had done this without really thinking about it systemically, folks that were going to programs, guess where they graduated to? Their couch, watching Oprah. Dave, I'd be okay if people watch Oprah because I know which side of the aisle she, looks on. But that's aside the point. My whole point here, and to Senator Uckey's point, because he lives this as well, is that the systems have to really look at this, Peter. So go ahead. I just want to get that point out there because here's what we allowed Joe to do. Joe got to defend his right to choose, his informed right to choose. That's all I care about.
Okay, thank you, Senator Hoffman. Representative Baker.
Thank you. Again, we've had a lot of conversation about this in both bodies. Certainly in the House, we saw a lot of terrific testimony on both sides of this issue. We heard some of our final testimony yesterday, Mr. Chair, about, again, a mom really worried about this. I think this is working well the way it is today. I want to support the Senate side. I like the language that there's there. I appreciate Representative Fischer bringing an idea to us. The problem with this idea, there's a date on it that ends it. And then I don't know what the minimum wages are going to look like. I don't know, have no idea. And again, I don't want to see one single Joe out of a job. There's a lot of them out there that we don't know where it's going to land. It's going in the right direction. It is naturally, I think, going the way we want to see it so that it seems like it works, but there still may be 10 years from now, 500 people, 1,000 people, there might be that. So I guess, again, I appreciate you bringing it to us, but I want to support the Senate language on this. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, Senator Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So when we talk about the 14C programs, I just want to highlight a particular narrative that's out there and that's been perpetuated, and I want to bring this to light because I think it is a false narrative and I think it is a harmful one. And that is the narrative that people who want the elimination of a sub-minimum wage are only able-bodied people, and that the advocates who want the elimination of a sub-minimum wage are able-bodied people who don't necessarily represent people with disabilities correctly. And that's not true. And we heard some of these things said on the House floor when you guys had that discussion. And it was very dismissive of the very people who we are supposed to be listening to. And we know these narratives aren't true because we had people with disabilities come to our committees and say that they are against the sub-minimum wage. We had one gentleman in particular who sticks with me who said, why is my work, why is my worth less than anybody else's? And it was a very compelling testimony, and again, something that sticks with me when I think about this particular topic. And I bring that up because I do want to tell those people that have been dismissed from this conversation that I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you testified and that you were immediately erased from the conversation. And I can't imagine what it feels like to hear words like that after you worked so hard to advocate on your behalf and to have your words and your existence erased from the conversation. I'm sorry, and I want you to know that you were heard and that you are seen. We hear you, we see you. And we know that there is trauma associated with these programs. We know that. We know that there is trauma when you are given a value that is so low that we would never allow this to happen to anybody else in society. And yet we allow it to happen to you over and over again. And we also know that there are people on both sides of this issue. And we need to continue to find a way, to find a plan where no one is disenfranchised. But some people are in this program because they have no choice. I have carried some fairly large pieces of legislation in my very small legislative career. And one thing that I've noticed without deviation, without variance, is that people tend to perhaps not participate or pay attention or bring their ideas to the table until there is some urgency. And when there is urgency that this bill might move, that something might pass, people come out of the woodwork to participate and be involved. And I think this pushes us in that direction. It gives us some urgency. It gives us a date, it gives us a timeline to come up with a plan that everybody can get on board with. And so I'm going to vote yes today on this amendment because I think it is a step forward to push us to do the work, to come up with that plan. But most importantly, I'm going to vote yes today because I want people, again, to know that you were heard, that we did see you when you came to that table. And when you said that you are worth just as much as anybody else, I agree with you. Your worth as a human being, as a person, it matters, and that worth is not less than anybody else's. I'm not okay with allowing laws to stand that treat you in traumatic ways and worthless ways, while again, we would not allow that for anybody else, but we allow it for you. You deserve better than that, and so I'm voting yes today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Mann. With that, we are going to be recessed. Okay, seeing no other discussion, first of all, thank you all for the testimony. We're going to see if we can wrap this up in about 3 minutes then. Mr. Kroos, would you please take the roll?
Representative Fischer.
Fischer, aye.
Fischer, aye. Representative Frederick.
Aye.
Frederick, aye. Representative Baker.
No.
Baker, nay. Senator Hoffman.
Nay.
Senator Hoffman, nay. Senator Mann.
Aye.
Aye. Senator Mann, aye. Senator Utke.
No.
Utke, nay. There are 2 ayes and 1 nay in the House, and 1 aye and 2 nays in the Senate.
With that, we have a roll call of 2 ayes and 1 nay in the House side, and 1 aye and 2 nays in the Senate side. The motion does not prevail, and the amendment is not adopted. I move to direct nonpartisan staff to prepare a conference committee report and incorporation of the spreadsheet. And I also move that the nonpartisan staff are empowered to make technical and conforming changes to the language approved by this conference committee in order to reflect the intent of this conference committee. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion approved. I want to thank staff and everyone for their hard work. Senator Hoffman, any closing comments?
No, we can make that the staff, and I will make closing comments on the floor when we bring it up. I'll be thanking everybody by name. So with that, thank you, Peter.
Okay, you're welcome. Seeing no further business before this conference committee, we are adjourned.